Welcome to Breakthrough Burnout, the bilingual podcast that helps you understand burnout better and gives you solutions to heal and live again. My name is Florence Parrow, and I am a sophrology practitioner, coach, author, and burnout expert. In this podcast, on my own or in conversation with other specialists, in French or in English, I'll help you understand the full picture of burnout to better avoid it or recover from it. Breakthrough Burnout, the podcast that helps you understand and heal. Hi there. I'm so happy to have you join me again for this new episode of Breakthrough Burnout. Today I wanted to look at the signs that can tell you that you are at risk of burnout. Because people ask that a lot. What should I be looking for? What can tell me whether I'm at risk, whether there's any danger of going into burnout? So I wanted to address this in this episode as we are starting September, going back maybe into routines where maybe a few things would be interesting to change in order to be more efficient, but less tired and less stressed. So let's start in this episode with signs to look for. What can tell you that you may be at risk of burnout? Well, first, to be at risk, you need to be working long hours. That's essential in a way. It doesn't mean it's paid work. It could be voluntary work. It could be being a parent. Whatever activity or occupation you have, if it's taking a lot of your time and energy, then it qualifies. Maybe you're even thinking about work most of your time. Maybe this is like a lot of busyness in your life. So that's usually something that has to be there in a way in order to be at risk of burnout. Maybe you're feeling super energized about it. Maybe you're loving what you do. Maybe it's like you're running on electricity and you're like, yeah, this is amazing. I love this and I thrive on this. I even hear people say, I thrive on stress. Yes and no. So it depends how you are working it and whether you are taking time to recharge afterwards. And doing what you love does not mean that you're protected from burnout. Quite the reverse. Because if you do what you love, which is great, I hope that's the case, then you may be doing too much of it very easily without thinking, because it's natural, because you love it. But this could actually be your downfall. So be very careful. Yes, loving what you do can take you further, but it's not preventing you from going into burnout. So a few things you can check to see whether you are at risk or not. First, are you relying on things like coffee, sugary snacks, or other type of stimulants to help you keep going? If that's the case, and I'm not talking about the 1 cup of coffee in the morning, I'm talking about, taking multiple cups of coffee during the day, then if that's the case, it means that your system needs more energy, which is a sign that either maybe, your nutrition needs to be looked at, or in any case, you are spending more energy than you have. So this is definitely something that could be telling you to be careful about. A few things to check. Do you have trouble focusing, concentrating? Do you have decreasing attention span, difficulty memorizing or learning? And that can happen. Anyone may find it difficult to remember a name or to find a word sometimes. But is this happening a lot and regularly and a lot more than before? Then if that's the case, this should really point to potential cognitive difficulties. Okay, that maybe that you are doing too much stress, too much fatigue, too much exertion, too much busyness. It could also be something else, of course. So this is something that if you're worried, you should definitely talk to your doctor about. But this could be one of the signs when you realize your brain is not functioning quite as it used to, and you're doing a lot, you're full speed on your work, on your activity. Another thing to look at is more on the emotional side. Are you snapping at people, on edge, irritable, frustrated, a lot more than usual? Maybe it's not like you at all to snap at people, and suddenly you find that you're doing it a lot. That could be really something to look at. Or it's crying for no reason. So you can't see why this is happening, but every day or nearly every day you find yourself crying and just thinking, for heaven's sake, why am I crying? But it means, whether it's the one or the other, that your emotional balance is not there anymore. Something is not quite right. And it could be that it is your hormones playing havoc. And that could be a sign of pre-burnout, because it could be that it's your stress hormones that are causing that. So definitely a need to look at that as well. Something that needs to be looked at as well is your connection to your smartphone, your laptop, your tablet, whatever your toy, I was about to say, of predilection is, whatever you prefer using as a device. But are you always on it? Always answering email, being pinged, messaging on social media, constantly, not switching off at night, leaving the phone on all night. These are signs that this could be too much, because it means you're constantly connected. It means your brain is constantly expecting that some form of message may arrive. And that in itself is enough for it to be overworking, to be spending too much energy on something that is just simply not happening anyway. Maybe your phone is just by your side, you're not using it, but it could be ringing or pinging. That in itself is enough to tire you out, as crazy as it sounds. It's just like having a newborn baby. They may not cry at night, but they may. So your brain does not do the same thing at night when you're sleeping. It doesn't go into as deep a sleep. You're not recharging as much. And this is exactly the same thing. It's really draining your energy for nothing. So learning to use your electronic devices properly and to disconnect regularly is essential. This is actually the one thing that has caused burnout numbers to soar years even before COVID, because a lot of burnout, burnout numbers tripled during COVID as well. But before that, it's the arrival of the smartphones that caused a big rise in burnout numbers. So it is essential. You may or may not feel tired, drained, overwhelmed. You may or may not feel it, but if you pay truly attention, listen inside, maybe why not in the morning when you wake up, first thing you may want to think about is, how am I feeling? Am I feeling energized, thinking about starting the day? Energized, but not too much. We're going to talk about that in a minute. Like a good, steady energy, feeling happy about it? Or is it like, I'm looking forward to a lot of things, but I'm tired actually? Please try to be as true to your feelings as possible, because this could really save your life. And maybe you are feeling some fatigue, but you are dismissing it. So please do not do that. And if you're tired but cannot relax, you're always doing something, that's also a very clear sign that you could be heading there. You may or may not feel aches or pains. When you start feeling them, they may have been there already quite some time, so be very careful about that, not to be dismissed either. Now, one thing is a little bit unusual but worth mentioning is if you are doing some form of physical exercise, you may not, but if you are, and suddenly you find yourself wanting to do a lot more, that's usually not a very good sign. And if you want to go deeper on that subject, we have an episode, it's episode 18, Exercises and Burnout, that you may want to listen to or to listen to again, because it will explain about that. Sorry about that. That you should not be exercising a lot more. Exercise is great when done reasonably, in balance. So this is not the time, if you're feeling any of the elements we have mentioned in this episode, this is not the time to start preparing for a marathon or thinking about climbing Mount Everest. No. Do a little bit of exercise as far as it gives you pleasure. Think in terms of pleasure, not in terms of competition. Take it down a notch if need be. You may, for instance, you may not need to be swimming for an hour. Maybe half an hour would be enough. Things like that. So take it the other way around. But if you're thinking about upping your sports level dramatically at the moment and you are worried you might be at risk of burnout, don't. Please don't. It would only end up eating up all the energy, as a little of energy you have left. So it could precipitate burnout. And then one sign that you really should be looking at is if your sleep was fine so far and suddenly or recently it's not anymore. Maybe you're finding it hard to fall asleep because there's too much going around in your mind. Maybe you're waking up during the night, same thing with a very active brain. But what I see most often is people waking up early with like their to-do list unrolling in their heads. So if that's happening to you a lot, be very careful and be very mindful that you could be at risk of burnout. Because if you are tired, if you are in chronic stress, if you are in overwhelm, and you are sleeping less, as it were, then of course you can go quicker into burnout. And I don't want to hear you say, oh yeah, I'm fine. That's what I hear all the time when I see people who are at that stage of pre-burnout. It's like, oh, but yeah, I'm fine. No, you're not. If you have one, well, or let's say two or three or more of those signs I have talked about, then you're not fine. You need to really own up to how you're feeling and really do something about it. So now, if you are still unsure about whether you are at risk or not, feel free to go and take our burnout barometer. I will put the link in the show notes. You could also refer to episode 16 called Finding Your Pace, which is an interesting episode. I think I recorded it in January, but as we are in September, same thing, sort of going back to work, going back to school type of vibe. It's interesting to question the way you are organizing your day, your work, your life at the moment. So this could be interesting for you. And I will record the next episode on what to put in place, how to, now that we've seen the science, so where do you take it from there? What do you put in place to avoid going there? to have a more balanced lifestyle. And talking about that next episode, from the next episode, this podcast will be on YouTube only. We are letting go of the podcast platforms, focusing our whole energy on YouTube, so that you also have access on YouTube to other things, other recordings, other videos, to help you feel better every day. That's the idea. And then you will have everything in video. This is the last of the audio-only episodes. Well, I hope this has been of some help. Feel free to reach out or book an appointment if you need it. And I will see you next time for the next episode on YouTube.